Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep into the operational level of warfare today, and we're focusing on the Army Corps. That's that powerful, multifunctional headquarters that manages multiple divisions and all those specialized brigades across these huge major campaigns.
Right.
So if you're trying to understand how these immense land forces move and fight and critically stay supplied over vast contested distances, well, this deep dive is your shortcut.
That's exactly right. We're really focused not just on the combat elements that you always see in the news.
Yeah, the pointy end of the spear.
Exactly. We're talking about the true engine of warfighting, those crucial enablers, and that massive apparatus of support sustainment that keeps the entire force in motion. And, understanding this framework is really the difference between an operation hitting its objectives and, well, one that just culminates in logistical failure.
Absolutely. So for anyone out there prepping for a high-level briefing, or maybe you're just intensely curious about how modern military operations maintain that operational reach and endurance in really complex environments, we are distilling the core knowledge you need.
And our insights today, they're drawn directly from the bedrock of U.S. Army and Joint Doctrine. We've pulled key concepts from Army Tactics Publication 392 on core operations.
Right.
And Army Tactics Publication 492, which zeroes in on sustainment support. Then there's Field Manual 40, Joint Publication 333 on Joint Task Force Operations, and maybe most importantly, recent lessons learned from the Mission Command Training Program.
Those are so vital.
They are.
So our mission today is explicitly focused on function and friction. We need to understand the fundamental structure of the Corps headquarters, how it can transition into a joint task force nucleus when the mission demands it, and the crucial operational mechanisms, those specialized enablers, that allow it to secure freedom of action and really prolong its endurance, even under extreme pressure.
So let's start by grounding ourselves in the foundational doctrine and defining what the Corps headquarters is really designed to do.
Okay, so according to the doctrine, particularly Army Tactics Publication 392, the Corps headquarters is designated as the Army's primary operational level warfighting headquarters.
And that's a big deal. It's the highest tactical echelon in the field Army structure. It serves as that critical hinge between strategic objectives set by higher headquarters and the actual tactical execution on the ground.
By the divisions and brigades.
Exactly. And that designation gives it a huge amount of responsibility, which is outlined in 4 core essential roles.
Okay.
First, it commands Army forces engaged in unified land operations, so it's the main ground maneuver command.
Right.
Second, and this is crucial for our discussion, it establishes the requirements and priorities for supporting and sustaining operations within its area. It basically owns the sustainment plan.
And the other 2 roles, they speak more to its scalability and flexibility.
Yeah.
Right, in the bigger joint force context.
Precisely. Third, the Corps often serves as the nucleus for a land component command headquarters. So it's coordinating land forces, sometimes multinational, with air, naval, and space forces in a joint setting.
And fourth,
it keeps the ability to operate as a tactical headquarters itself, especially for, focused, short-notice deployments.
And you see it all over the doctrine, this idea of how deployable and scalable the Corps structure has to be. It's not some static thing.
Well, that flexibility is paramount. I mean, the Corps has to be capable of commanding and controlling an incredibly diverse array of forces.
We're talking 3 to 5 divisions.
At least. Plus multiple brigade combat teams, specialized functional and multifunctional brigades, and it has to seamlessly integrate joint and multinational forces. It has to adapt its staff and command structure for everything from crisis response all the way up through prolonged major campaigns.
And when it gets designated as a land component command, the Corps HQ has to integrate that joint doctrine right from the get-go.
Oh, absolutely. It means its internal staff processes have to adapt immediately, and that really requires the command group to set the conditions.
Let's talk about that command group. So inside the organization, it all starts with the leadership, right?
Right. You have the commanding general, of course, but the role of the deputy commanding general is, I would argue, one of the most critical integration points in the whole headquarters.
Why that specific role? Why is the deputy commanding general so essential for continuity?
Well, the deputy commanding general, who's normally a U.S. major general, is the commanding general's primary assistant, the second in command.
Okay.
Now, they don't have their own independent staff structure. They borrow staff when they need it, but their role is, well, it's existential. Doctrine is crystal clear on this. They must maintain complete situational understanding to assume command at any moment.
So if the commanding general is killed or incapacitated?
The entire operational tempo depends on the deputy commanding general stepping in without a single pause.
And I imagine that requirement to have that immediate, detailed situational understanding is why they typically stay put at the main command post.
Exactly. Even if the commanding general is forward, visiting units, or operating from a different node, they are the fixed anchor overseeing the daily execution.
Got it.
Now, the rest of the core organization is built around the staff. You have the standard coordinating staff, the G1 through G9, managing the warfighting functions. But the operational complexity demands a really large and highly specialized special staff.
These are the deep subject matter experts, right?
Yeah.
The ones providing the technical oversight a generalist G staff might not have.
Precisely. Think of the staff judge advocate for all legal matters, the public affairs officer, the core engineer, and the officers specializing in chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense. These special staff officers are crucial because their expertise touches multiple parts of the operation.
And that's where the internal integration challenges probably start, because they don't just report to one G section.
You're exactly right. The doctrine notes they routinely work with more than one coordinating staff officer. The core engineer, for instance, has a habitual relationship with both the G3 operations for mobility and counter-mobility tasks, and with the G4 logistics for things like construction, facilities, and base support planning. Seamless coordination across those stovepipes is just vital for success.
And all these staff elements are organized within command post cells, which are, I guess, the physical manifestation of the battle rhythm. What are the different planning horizons for the core cells?
So the most immediate horizon is owned by the current operations integration cell.
The COIC.
Right. The COIC is the central hub for real-time operations, overseeing the execution of the current plan. They maintain status, conduct update briefings, track battlefield geometry, and manage that day-to-day coordination. They live minute to minute.
Then you shift outwards to the future operations cell.
And the future operations cell bridges that gap. They handle mid-range planning, usually looking ahead 24 to 96 hours, sometimes even further. Their main job is developing and preparing branches to the current operation.
So anticipating enemy moves or changes and drafting responses so the main command post isn't caught flat-footed.
Exactly. They process information and create that essential ongoing link between the immediate fight and the long-range plans.
So if the current operations integration cell is focused on executing the plan, the future operations cell is focused on adapting the plan.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the physical nerve center for all of this is the main command post. It's primarily composed of the command group and these functional and integrating cells, organized around the 5 warfighting functions: intelligence, movement and maneuver, fires, protection, and sustainment.
We should probably mention, though, the increased emphasis on command post survivability in contested environments. Just sitting in one big main command post is getting more and more risky.
Oh, absolutely. The Corps has to operate in a multi-nodal distributed command post structure to survive. They might use a home station mission command center for early planning, but major combat dictates distributing people and functions across multiple deployed nodes.
But that dispersion comes at a cost, right?
A significant cost. It strains resources, it massively increases the demand for robust communications networks, and it makes that internal coordination, like integrating those special staff officers we talked about, exponentially harder. The tactical need for survivability is in direct conflict with the efficiency of centralized mission command.
Okay, so if the Corps headquarters is the brain setting the priorities, then the enablers are the highly specialized units, the limbs that execute those decisions across that huge area of operations. Let's start with securing the logistical area, which falls to the Maneuver Enhancement Brigade.
The Maneuver Enhancement Brigade is absolutely vital, especially in large-scale combat. It provides the staff planning and control for units conducting decisive action and, crucially, managing and securing the core support area.
Which is where all the sustainment assets are positioned and protected.
Right. And it's almost always designated as the area commander for that core support area.
I see.
The important thing here is its multifunctional, tailored capability. Its task organization is entirely based on the mission. It can be task organized to perform military police functions, engineer functions, and chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense functions. It's central to managing security in that logistics zone.
So why is it so important for the Corps commander to have one single security coordinator for that huge area? Why not just let the logistics units protect themselves?
Because the core support area is massive. I mean, it can span hundreds or thousands of square kilometers and contain tens of thousands of people, critical facilities, command nodes.
Wow.
Without a single dedicated headquarters like the Maneuver Enhancement Brigade, security would be fragmented and reactive. The Maneuver Enhancement Brigade provides the structure to synchronize patrolling, base defense, and reaction forces against threats across the entire depth of the area.
Okay, moving from ground control to deep influence, let's talk fire's enablers. The Corps is supported by a field artillery brigade, which gives it that deep strike capability.
That field artillery brigade provides three critical functions. First, it adds depth to the battlefield, striking enemy reserves, command posts, sustainment nodes, things that are far beyond the reach of division artillery.
Okay.
Second, it augments the fires of the subordinate divisions, pooling resources for specific missions. And third, it acts as the counter-fire headquarters, performing Corps-wide target acquisition to find and destroy enemy rocket and artillery systems.
And in an offensive operation, the doctrine says the priority of fire support typically goes to the Corps' decisive operation. That implies a pretty significant command decision.
It does. The Corps commander, advised by the fire cell, can shift those fire assets around by changing support relationships. This ability to centralize control over deep fires, even while divisions are fighting their own tactical fights, is how the Corps shapes that deep battle.
Shifting over to the intelligence warfighting function, let's talk about the Expeditionary Military Intelligence Brigade.
So, the Expeditionary Military Intelligence Brigade runs multidiscipline intelligence operations. It's the primary military intelligence course provider for the brigade combat teams and for the Corps staff itself. It's the key organization for coordinating things like signals intelligence, human intelligence, and counterintelligence.
And this is where those Mission Command Training Program observations provide some really critical insight, because what's on paper doesn't always translate to execution.
Absolutely. The observations highlight a constant recurring challenge: the failure to effectively integrate the Expeditionary Military Intelligence Brigade, especially its intelligence and electronic warfare battalions, during the military decision-making process.
So staffs just aren't leveraging the capability they have.
They're not.
Why is that integration so hard in practice? Is it just stovepiping?
It's often a mix of inertia and, frankly, limited bandwidth in a highly dispersed environment. Intelligence operations generate just a massive amount of data that has to be processed, analyzed, and disseminated rapidly.
Right.
So if the Expeditionary Military Intelligence Brigade isn't fully baked into the planning cells, future ops and current ops, and if the processes for acting on their info aren't codified in the standard operating procedures, that intelligence often just arrives too late to influence the fight.
Which links directly to the need for information collection synchronization, a joint responsibility of the G3 operations and the G2 intelligence.
That partnership is non-negotiable. In every large-scale combat exercise, the amount of information required always exceeds the capability of the collection assets you have available.
Well, they have to prioritize.
They have to. The G3 and G2 must deconflict and synchronize their efforts. They prioritize the commander's critical information requirements, deciding which assets, satellites, drones, human sources go after which pieces of information. If they fail to sync up, you get multiple assets targeting the same thing, which is just a waste of scarce resources.
Okay, let's turn to the protection warfighting function. This is all about preserving effectiveness and survivability, and it ties right back to the Maneuver Enhancement Brigade.
Protection is essential, but it is so often treated as an afterthought. And here we hit another crucial Mission Command Training Program observation. The integration of protection and sustainment functions is frequently poorly executed.
And that failure leads directly to struggles in maintaining operational tempo and reach.
Directly. If protection fails, the logistics fail, and the whole operation culminates.
What's the fundamental breakdown there?
The observation points to a lack of senior leader investment in the risk management process. If the commanding general and the deputy commanding general aren't continually driving home the need for detailed risk identification within those cells, the staff will just put off detailed protection planning until it's too late.
So commanders have to accept risk to their sustainment, but they have to do it intentionally.
Exactly. And then they have to allocate the necessary resources, like the Maneuver Enhancement Brigade, to mitigate that risk.
Let's get into the specifics of the support area operations and the threat levels the Maneuver Enhancement Brigade is designed to counter.
So the threats in that support area are categorized in 3 levels. Level 1 is generally minor nuisance activities, individual attackers, maybe a small terrorist cell. Annoying, but manageable by local security.
Okay.
Level 2 is where the threat gets real and starts to impact the mission. This includes organized enemy force activities focused on destroying critical nodes, like targeting command and control centers or major logistics facilities.
And then there's the most severe threat.
That's Level 3. A Level 3 threat means a substantial, organized enemy force whose objective is to seize or destroy those C2 nodes, logistics facilities, or lines of communication. This is beyond what local security can handle and requires a coordinated response from the Maneuver Enhancement Brigade and dedicated quick reaction forces.
The ability to counter a level 3 attack in your own rear area really is the ultimate test of that protection and sustainment integration.
It absolutely is.
Okay, so as we noted, if the core is the operational commander, then sustainment is the continuous effort that ensures freedom of action, extends operational reach, and prolongs endurance. This is really the core of our deep dive.
And the demands of large-scale combat are just exponentially higher than what we've seen in counterinsurgency. This dramatically increases the risk of culmination, that point where the force just can't continue the offensive because it's out of supplies, people, or maintenance capacity.
Robust logistics is non-negotiable.
Truly.
So let's look at the core sustainment command structure, starting with the main player at this level, the Expeditionary Sustainment Command.
Right. The Expeditionary Sustainment Command is specifically assigned to the core. It's the core level headquarters responsible for command and control, planning, integration, and synchronization of all operational sustainment.
And it has a unique feature, right?
It does. Army Tactics Publication 492 points out that the Expeditionary Sustainment Command is the only sustainment headquarters with an organizational design that supports an early entry command post.
And that early entry capability sounds vital for getting into a theater quickly.
It is. It means the Expeditionary Sustainment Command can deploy ahead of the main force to establish an area or base camp, which is crucial for a theater opening and making sure those initial sustainment flows start immediately. Without that, the follow-on force can't deploy effectively.
And then subordinate to the Expeditionary Sustainment Command, we have the Sustainment Brigade.
Right. The Sustainment Brigade is the Army's primary brigade-level sustainment headquarters. It's in charge of the command and control of all those assigned sustainment units, transportation companies, maintenance battalions, you name it. It integrates all sustainment support, including medical logistics.
So let's break down the logistics core functions, starting with distribution, the literal movement of stuff.
Distribution is the lifeblood. It's about synchronizing transportation and material management to move people and supplies from their origin, a seaport or an airfield, all the way to the foxhole.
And in large-scale combat, the enemy is actively trying to stop that from happening.
Every step of the way. Which means equipment might arrive at numerous smaller ports, making the whole distribution challenge exponentially harder to manage than just using one big, secure port.
And this flow requires dedicated movement control.
Precisely. That's handled by the Movement Control Battalion. Its mission is to prioritize and synchronize all movements, ensuring that military convoys, commercial traffic, and the flow of new forces are all managed smoothly to prevent massive traffic jams on critical routes.
The sources mention specific transportation shortfalls that planners have to deal with, especially when there's no good infrastructure.
Right. Planners cannot just rely on military trucks. The Corps has to plan for using commercial assets. Rail, contracted trucks, barges, and critically, in maritime environments where ports are destroyed or just don't exist, they have to rely on Army watercraft, like the logistics support vessel. These allow you to bring in heavy equipment and supplies without needing a deep draft port.
Okay, next up is material management, which is all about making sure all 10 classes of supply are available where they need to be.
And for munitions, Class 5, this function is highly sensitive and carries immense operational risk. The munitions sections of the Expeditionary Sustainment Command's Distribution Management Center forecast requirements and set stockage levels. The most crucial concept here is the controlled supply rate.
Okay, explain the controlled supply rate. How does that dictate the operational pace?
The controlled supply rate isn't a suggestion. It's a non-negotiable guiding principle. It's developed by the G4 Logistics and approved by the commander. And it allocates ammunition based on the commander's priorities, prioritizing the main effort. The Distribution Management Center enforces it to ensure that unit ammunition requirements don't exceed what the entire system can possibly sustain and deliver.
So if the G3 operations plans a super fire-intensive operation that needs more ammo than the controlled supply rate allows,
Then the G3 has to change the plan, or the commander has to explicitly accept the risk of culminating later in the fight. It's the check against tactical consumption outrunning strategic delivery. Ignoring it leads directly to a catastrophic logistical culmination.
what about bulk consumables, like fuel and water?
So fuel commodity managers in the Distribution Management Center monitor distribution and recommend priority of issue. For water, the capability is substantial. A single water support company can produce between 300,000 and 450,000 gallons of potable water per day.
But the doctrine makes a big distinction about water distribution in high-intensity conflict, specifically moving away from bottled water.
That is a key logistical trade-off. During large-scale combat, sustainment planners should expect to distribute only bulk water from the core rear boundary forward.
Why is that?
Because bottled water is a massive distribution burden. It's heavy, it takes up a ton of truck space, it's generally reserved only for specific contingencies or maybe humanitarian relief. The priority is bulk water, requiring engineer units to purify and transport it in tankers, which hugely reduces the logistical footprint.
Finally, maintenance. High operational tempo means high equipment losses. How does the Corps get gear fixed and back to the fight?
The Army uses a two-level maintenance system. Field maintenance is the basic level repair and return to the user, done by unit mechanics. Sustainment maintenance is the higher level repair and return to the supply system. This is deep repair, done at fixed facilities.
And the Expeditionary Sustainment Command Support Operations Maintenance Section orchestrates all this.
Exactly. They oversee core maintenance policies, they do trend analysis on equipment failures, and, most critically, they allocate maintenance resources to support reconstitution efforts for severely beat-up maneuver units.
And reconstitution can't happen without that dedicated maintenance effort.
Correct. The maintenance slice, supervised by the Expeditionary Sustainment Command, makes sure that enough repair parts, people, and recovery assets are dedicated to bringing combat power back into the fight.
Sustainment isn't just about trucks and fuel. It's also about the human dimension personnel and medical support. Let's look at the Army Health System structure.
The Medical Command Deployment Support is central here. It's a medical force provider for all units above brigade, and it provides mission command for the whole Army health system within the joint framework.
And what about the rules of care at the Corps level? Where does the most advanced care happen?
So we use a 4-level system. Role 1 is at the lowest tactical level first aid for medics. Role 2 provides advanced trauma care and stabilization, often with surgical capability, and you find those scattered throughout the support area. But the most advanced care in the theater at the Corps level is at the Role 3 hospital.
The Role 3 is basically a military trauma center.
Precisely. It provides care for all patient categories, offers comprehensive medical services, and is often augmented with specialized surgical or lab detachments. The Corps surgeon oversees all of it.
What about moving the wounded? Medical evacuation. The doctrine seems to prioritize methods based on the scale of the conflict.
It does, and this is important. In large-scale combat operations, ground ambulances are specified as the primary method of evacuation.
Not helicopters.
Not primarily. Air ambulances are preferred for speed, of course, but they're generally reserved for evacuation within the division's close area of operations, where they can be protected from deep enemy air defense threats.
And what about moving patients once they're stable?
That's intratheater evacuation. It's the process of moving patients from, say, a Role 2 or Role 3 facility to an even higher level of care, often out of the theater entirely. This frees up beds in the forward hospitals so they don't get overwhelmed.
Okay, shifting to personnel services, or human resources. The critical functions here are personnel accountability, casualty reporting, and managing replacements.
To manage the flow of people into this massive area, the Corps HQ, working with the Joint Staff, J1, often sets up a Joint Personnel Processing Center.
Right.
This center handles the reception, initial processing, accountability, and onward movement of all replacements and augmentees. It's the core mechanism for maintaining personnel visibility.
And that visibility extends to the somber but necessary function of mortuary affairs.
Fatality management is a huge consideration in large-scale combat. The Corps Joint Central Graves Registration Office handles that. In joint operations, the Army may be assigned as the lead service for recovering and evacuating military fatalities, and this requires really precise ethical planning.
Let's move to legal and contracting enablers. The Judge Advocate General Corps provides legal support across military justice, operational law, contract law.
All of that. And it's essential for ensuring operations comply with the law of armed conflict. However, the Mission Command Training Program gives a very strong warning here.
Which is?
Staff should prepare for little to no judge advocate presence in forward or dispersed command and control nodes. The legal team is going to be prioritized for the main command post.
That raises a huge point about institutional knowledge. If the legal experts aren't there in the forward tactical command post, the entire staff, the G3, the G2, the fire cell, they all have to have a high level of legal and operational law awareness.
Precisely. You can't wait for a legal review when you're facing a split-second targeting decision. The complexity demands that staff officers be trained to identify legal issues and escalate them only when they absolutely have to.
Okay, finally, operational contract support. Modern operations rely so heavily on commercial sources. How is this planned and controlled at the Corps level?
Operational contract support is massive and needs diligent oversight. The planning for it is led by the Sustainment cell within the Corps headquarters, reporting to the G4. If contracting is a major part of the operation, you might even get a dedicated operational contract support cell.
And that cell works with contracting battalions to get the work done.
Right, to legally obtain and effectively use commercial support while maintaining careful contractor management to avoid waste or fraud. It's all about making sure those contracted resources align with the commander's priorities.
So the Corps headquarters is designed to function within a broader joint and often multinational operational area. Let's talk about how this Army headquarters transforms into the core of a joint task force.
It's by far the preferred Army headquarters to provide the nucleus of a joint task force. And that's right out of Joint Publication 333. It's because of its inherent staff capability, its ability to command large formations, and its ability to respond rapidly to a crisis.
But the Corps staff is natively Army-focused. They use G-codes. How does it just become a joint entity that can coordinate air, land, and sea forces?
Well, it requires deliberate, modular joint augmentation. Transitioning the Corps to a joint task force structure means you need specialized personnel to augment various areas. Command and staff, robust signal support for joint networks, and highly technical areas like civil affairs or military information support operations.
And I have to imagine that integrating people from outside the Army, say a Marine as the Joint Staff J5 or an Air Force officer running the J3, that must create some real friction.
Oh, it's a known difficulty. And it requires careful management by the Chief of Staff. Integrating personnel from different services, who operate with different cultures, regulations, and terminology, requires deliberate oversight to minimize that friction and make sure everyone is speaking a common joint language.
That transition also means dropping the Army G-code structure and adopting the Joint Staff J-code structure.
Yes. Every directorate takes on joint responsibilities. The G6, Signal, transitions to the J6, advising the commander on joint communication networks and ensuring interoperability. The J9, Civil Military Operations, becomes critical.
What's the specific function of the J9 in a joint task force?
The J9 is responsible for collaborative planning with a huge array of partners. Interagency organizations like the State Department, intergovernmental organizations like the UN, non-governmental organizations, and the host nation. They analyze how the civilian population impacts military operations and, just as importantly, how military operations impact the civilian environment.
Okay, let's bring it all together with the critical process of synchronization. The sustainment battle rhythm. This is how the Corps makes sure all these moving pieces work in concert with the maneuver plan.
The battle rhythm is absolutely essential for maximizing scarce resources. And the commander's primary tool to prioritize and allocate those resources is the Corps Sustainment Board.
Who chairs this pivotal board, and what are its key outputs?
It's chaired by the Corps Deputy Commander, or the Expeditionary Sustainment Command Commander. And this board is not just a meeting. It receives vital inputs targeting guidance, running estimates from the G4, and its outputs are binding decisions on resource prioritization, policy changes, and updates to the sustainment annex of the operation order. This is where the hard calls are made.
Prioritizing ammo to the main effort, shifting medical assets.
All of it. And alongside that, you have the movement boards,
which have a more focused tactical role in this synchronization.
Right. The movement boards synchronize the distribution plan with protection efforts and the physical movement of forces. This is crucial for controlling the flow of forces into the area and making sure sustainment convoys are protected and arrive on time.
Now, critically, the Mission Command Training Program observations highlight a recurring planning horizon issue. that limits the success of this whole battle rhythm.
And this is maybe the most significant operational friction point we've talked about. Staffs consistently focus too heavily on the immediate 96 to 120-hour window. They fail to prioritize the development of running estimates that anticipate requirements beyond that immediate horizon.
But why is that long-range view looking out 14 or 21 days so crucial?
Because it takes days, sometimes weeks, to move bulk classes of supply-like munitions or fuel from the strategic port to the tactical edge. If the G4 only plans for the next 4 days, they will not see the logistical cliff approaching 10 days later.
So you need those accurate, detailed running estimates.
You have to have them. They're essential for achieving what's called predictive sustainment and precision logistics. You have to see the deep logistical future to be able to maintain the deep fight.
And finally, success means operating in a contested environment where the enemy is actively targeting your command and control and your sustainment.
Adversaries will target sustainment forces and nodes with long-range fires, drones, and increasingly cyber attacks. The Corps has to integrate and synchronize its cyberspace operations to gain and maintain what the doctrine calls temporary freedom of action in cyberspace.
And superiority in that domain is rarely permanent.
Rarely, because large parts of the network infrastructure are outside the Corps' direct control.
So the G6, the signal staff, has to coordinate all of that communication architecture to support the battle rhythm.
Exactly. The G6 oversees the network operations and information to support interoperability among all the supported forces. In a joint environment, this requires meticulous coordination with the J2, the Intelligence Directorate, to make sure intelligence data flows without disruption, even when the network is under attack.
And for physical survivability, Field Manual 4.0 is pretty explicit.
It is. The doctrine is clear. Commanders must use dispersion. That means multiple staging areas, base clusters, multiple lines of communication to prevent detection. And sustainment units have to actively use camouflage, cover, and concealment and address their electromagnetic, acoustic, and thermal signatures. A maintenance yard full of idling trucks is a high-value target. So what does this all mean? We've detailed how the Corps headquarters is so much more than just a staff. It's this highly complex, scalable engine that has to instantly transform into a multifunctional joint entity when it's required.
Yeah.
And the very existence and operational efficiency of the Corps relies completely on its highly specialized enablers. From the Expeditionary Military Intelligence Brigade gathering data, to the field artillery providing depth, and, fundamentally, the Expeditionary Sustainment Command ensuring that relentless continuity of logistics, personnel, and medical care.
And here's where it gets really interesting and why the doctrine hammers on synchronization. The ultimate challenge isn't just delivering supplies, it's the relentless cross-functional synchronization required to overcome all these friction points. It's the Corps Sustainment Board prioritizing ammunition based on the controlled supply rate. It's the operations and intelligence staff aligning information collection when assets are scarce. And it's the entire command group mitigating the immense risk from a threat that is actively targeting command posts and supply lines in every single domain.
Right.
The ability of the Corps to succeed in large-scale combat is defined by how well its commanders and staff integrate these diverse enablers and manage that predictive, long-range battle rhythm to prevent culmination at all costs.
The focus is always on the consequences of inaction.
So considering the significant challenges we've seen in training, especially the strains of dispersed command and control and limited bandwidth in a contested environment, factors that directly oppose that need for precision logistics, how might the Corps best leverage emerging digital capabilities, like advanced logistics tracking and automation systems, to maintain the predictive, precise sustainment needed to truly win the deep fight? That's the question that has to dominate future operational planning as you digest today's deep dive.